Well, the big question for me, and probably also for you, is why the car? Why?
Yeah.
And
but I would modify this. Not why the car, but why specific mobility machines.
Yeah.
I tried to introduce the term. Nehmt ihr schon auf?
Yeah.
Yeah. I tried to introduce the term mobility machines. So I would place the car or a specific social construction of the car in a row with small boats, motorcycles, other small mobility machines, adventure sailing boats, for example. So I would modify it, not why the car, but why got the car a social construction of adventure. There are, of course,
but for me it's really why the car. I mean, for me this era in between the two wars is crucial because, you know, the initiating period between until the First World War, that's of course clear. You know, that's the adventure machine, or however you want, een reislimousine, or how you want to formulate that. But after the First World War, people had to decide to go on with the car, although they already knew that it was very lethal, and it could kill a lot of people.
Yes.
And it had enormous disadvantages. So the question is, why did they continue to use the car?
Yeah.
And there are different explanations for that.
Yeah,
So.
I would also try to modify this. Why did they use the car in a similar way before the First World War, but added some special new tracks, new features to it?
Yeah.
So the car obviously had a lot of attractions against this type of public transport system, but it had a price. You had problems with safety, and probably also this was discussed in Germany between the wars. The car wastes resources. The private cars detract a lot of probably other types of investment.
Yes. But also you have to see it within the context of, you know, we are now sitting in a tramway. This is not an old way of mobility, because the older urban tramway systems were all abandoned in the 1910s and 1920s because of the car.
But not in Germany. In Germany they were kept on, I think. When you look at the tramway systems in the big cities, for example, they were even extended.
Okay.
So I think we have a typical situation of growth of different concurrence systems.
Yeah, competing
systems.
Yeah.
So in the 1920s, the traffic with horses, even in the towns, was increasing. The tramway was increasing, and the car was getting a broader usage. But it was tried to fit it in this completely growing system.
But one of the consequences of, let's say, the victory of this new mobility history was that the study of this type of mobility and the study of shipping declined.
Yeah.
So that was one of the negative consequences of our victory.
In our field of history, of course.
Yeah.
And the other thing which grew with the car is the sort of, as you said, enthusiasm, fan type, new type of journalism around the car, and this had a sort of feedback loop with the car. There were fan systems, there were different types of attraction, racing, for example, touring, and there were journalisms with that, and this fostered the use of cars as well. So, and the other types of mobility got less sexy in a way.
Yeah.
They did not attract this type of public fascination.
Yeah. Yeah, and then there's this other problem that when this field was developing, mobility studies and especially automotive history, it was a kind of myopic, no, what's the word? Myopic, because it was concentrated to the West.
Yeah.
And I mean, my new study about this world mobility issue, for me, turned the whole history upside down, because other rules were valid in the global south. For instance, there was no time for them to build up in the cities railway systems.
Yeah.
So when the car came in the 60s, 70s, 80s or later, they had to cope with modern traffic.
Yeah.
Without the railway, without mass systems.
Yeah, quite. This introduced interesting sort of hybrid systems.
Yes.
So private cars, which were used for a sort of official public transport.
Yeah.
Private cars loading people in it. Private cars changing its structure. They became a sort of, they got more seats in, for example, and new types of crossover to public transport were established. But in a very irregular way. And this is, I think, what I learned from your book. There were no fixed rules. And it was a sort of bottom-up system going.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
But
also, for me, you know, what I found by studying world mobility is that, for instance, the idea of the adventure machine or the car as a kind of aggressive tool didn't play that big a role in the non-West, so to speak, and the status character and the character of the car as a commodity was much more important.
Quite.
So and there is a thesis by the Komarovs, the man and woman Komarov, who say that the Third World acted as a kind of laboratory for the West.
This is an interesting
and
theory.
I think, you know, we tend to say that in the West, the Rostov idea, the West, there was modernization, and then it was exported to the non-West. That's totally
it's
not
complete
true.
nonsense. We agree on
And it's the other way around. The
Yeah.
experiments were done in the non-West.
Yeah.
For instance, this commodity idea, and if you then look back at the West, you have a new vision of analyzing the success of the car.
Yeah. But
and explaining it.
In order to understand this, one has to look at the actors. Who did this actually?
Yeah.
Who was interested in that? But going back to your aggression subject, of course there is a lot of aggression in non-Western car culture. For example, when you drive in Shanghai or in Delhi, there's a lot of aggression on the road. But this is a sort of systemic aggression.
Okay.
It's not aggression derived from the attitude of the drivers.
Yeah, but there are also Chinese traffic engineers, traffic experts, who claim a kind of Chinese exceptionalism next to the American exceptionalism, who claim that Chinese drivers are, as they call it, palliative rather than aggressive. And I'm not sure that
that this is
that
right.
is stereotyping.
Yeah. I think you have in China, when I compare it with my own experiences in China, this eternal conflict between systemic approach and individual approach. when you drive in Shanghai, you have a lot of panels showing you the congestion of the roads and showing you red, green, and yellow lines. What kind of traffic to expect, and constructing deviations and barring roads and all that. So we have a lot of top-down systemic steering of the traffic in specific ways. And on the other hand, you have this sort of anarchy, the common anarchy.
What Western observers call chaos, which is not chaos. It's another way of doing traffic.
It's chaos in the sense of mathematicians who try to find out patterns in chaotic systems.
But Kurt, let's talk about how we started as scholars of history. I think as far as my emerges as a scholar is concerned, is that we are, or maybe we are, children of Scott. I think the social construction of technology.
Definitely.
Weber Baker, who analyzed the bicycle,
and the light bulb and the bicycle.
Yeah, the bicycle, and he claimed that there are two types of two bicycles: the dangerous one and the safe one. I had some problems with this claim of Scott, because I felt that by applying it in a radical way, the materiality or the object itself tends to evaporate.
Exactly.
And so we need. I thought we needed a Scott Plus or Scott 2.0, in which you recognize that there is some relative autonomy of technology involved, and that's of course a curse in the Church of Scottish. But I think you agree with that, no?
I definitely agree, but I try to modify it a bit. What I learned, or what we learned from Scott, is looking at objects in a different way from the generation before us. We looked at objects as a sort of porter of meaning.
Yes.
And we looked at it with a different, coming from a different subject. You and I both from the history of literature, and the idea that probably aesthetic elements would play a role, and that objects don't have a meaning, but they get meaning by people who use it and who produce it. But I agree totally with you. Where's the object? If we have only the looking at objects and the construction of meaning, then the objects is getting into the background, and in the worst case it will be dropped.
Yeah, it's forgotten because the people who formulated this idea were not engineers or were not technically inclined.
Not at all. And when I started at the museum, I was learning the hard way by looking close into objects. We learned to close reading. We learned to take a very close look at texts. And so what I did in the museum, I applied my experience with close reading, with texts and pictures, at objects.
The object as text.
This is not Scott.
We go now to the new underground part of Karlsruhe Tramway.
Okay.
Just so you know.
And the second struggle we had to fight, I think, was against the amateurs of technology, especially of the car, and their technological determinism. So we had to rewrite this history.